techdaily.ai, your source for technical information. Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the essential knowledge you need to navigate the complexities of the tech world.
Today, we're tackling a challenge that's really top of mind for pretty much anyone using cloud services: optimizing costs. We're going to explore some, practical strategies to get a handle on your cloud spending and make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck without compromising performance or agility. Think of this as your insider's guide to making cloud economics work for you. And we'll be focusing mainly on those core areas where costs tend to pile up: compute, storage, and databases.
That's right. I mean, the cloud offers incredible power, fantastic flexibility, but it's also really easy for expenses to spiral if you're not paying close attention. So our goal in this deep dive is basically to give you actionable insights, things you can actually use, so you can confidently manage and hopefully reduce your cloud costs. Okay, let's unpack this. The absolute starting point, well, it might sound obvious, but it's truly understanding where your cloud dollars are actually going. We're talking about more than just looking at the overall monthly bill, right?
Precisely. Visibility is, well, it's paramount. You absolutely need detailed data. Ideally, you want hourly breakdowns of both your cloud expenditure and how your resources are being used. That kind of granularity lets you pinpoint exactly which services, maybe even which specific resources, are eating up your budget. Cloud providers, they offer various tools that give you this level of detailed view.
Right. But when you're faced with all that data, I mean, how do you actually make sense of it? It can feel a bit like trying to find a needle in a haystack sometimes.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming. And this is exactly where implementing a really solid tagging strategy becomes, well, essential. Think of tags just as digital labels you stick on your cloud resources. So, for example, you might tag things by their environment, like prod or dev, or maybe the application they support, the team responsible, even a specific cost center. By applying these labels consistently, you can then filter and analyze your costs and usage data in, really meaningful ways.
Ah, okay.
You might even consider a hierarchical structure, something like environment.productionapplication.webserverowner.team-alpha. That kind of detail helps a lot. And there are even tools out there to help automate and enforce your tagging policies, just to ensure consistency.
So it's almost like creating a detailed inventory system for all your cloud stuff, where every item has a clear label. Makes sense.
Exactly. And this detailed labeling, it directly enables effective cost allocation. You can properly attribute cloud spending to specific projects or teams or business units, which, not only gives much clearer visibility, but also encourages a sense of ownership and accountability. When teams can actually see the direct cost impact of their resources, they're naturally more motivated to look for optimizations.
That makes a lot of sense. So, okay, you've got the data, you've tagged everything. What's the next step in keeping those costs actually under control?
Well, setting up proactive monitoring and notifications is crucial, absolutely key. You should definitely define budgets within your cloud environment and then configure alerts that trigger if your spending starts approaching or worse, exceeds those limits. This helps you catch any, unexpected spikes in cost early on so you can take corrective action before they really escalate. Most cloud platforms have built-in services designed just for this.
Ah, okay. It's kind of like setting a spending limit on your credit card and getting that text alert if you're about to hit it.
That's a very good comparison, actually, yes. And finally, this isn't a set it and forget it kind of process. Regular analysis of your cost and usage data is just vital. Trends, anomalies, potential areas for optimization, these things will emerge over time. Consistent review ensures you're always looking for ways to improve efficiency and, well, eliminate waste.
Okay, so we've got a pretty good grasp now on understanding where the money's going. Let's pivot slightly. Let's talk about making smarter choices about the resources themselves, because it's not simply about picking the absolute cheapest option available, is it?
No, not at all. Evaluating services means looking beyond just the sticker price. The optimal choice always balances costs with other critical factors like performance, reliability, security, and of course, your organization's specific needs. Sometimes, a slightly more expensive service might offer significantly better performance or maybe easier management, which ultimately provides greater value in the long run.
Right, makes sense. And one of the biggest cloud expenses for many organizations is compute. How can we be more strategic about that particular area?
Yeah, compute's a big one. Right-sizing your compute resources, especially those virtual machines like EC2 instances, presents a really significant opportunity for cost reduction. We've seen companies cut their compute bills substantially just by identifying instances where, say, CPU utilization consistently hovers below 10%.
Wow, 10%.
Yeah, basically zombie instances just sitting there barely doing any work. A lot of instances end up being underutilized or just plain oversized for their actual workloads. So by identifying these, you can downsize them to a more appropriate size or maybe even terminate them if they're genuinely no longer needed. Cloud providers often offer tools that analyze your instance performance and actually give you right-sizing recommendations.
So that's like having someone look at your company car fleet and say, look, for these routes, you really only need a small hatchback, not that massive SUV.
Exactly that. And you also need to carefully consider the specific characteristics of your workload, things like CPU, memory needs, I/O demands, when you're initially selecting instance types and sizes. Choosing the right fit from the get-go can prevent a lot of unnecessary spending down the line.
Okay, what about storage then? That can also creep up and become a pretty substantial cost.
Oh, absolutely. For storage, particularly object storage like S3, cost optimization often comes down to understanding the different storage tiers available. These tiers typically have varying costs based on, how frequently you need to access the data stored in them. So implementing lifecycle policies is really key here.
Lifecycle policies.
Yeah, think of them as automated rules you set up for your storage. For example, you can tell the system to automatically move files older than, say, 30 days from the standard, more expensive tier to a less frequently accessed, much cheaper tier, and then maybe archive them or even delete them entirely after a year or so. Also, just regularly identifying and getting rid of any unnecessary data and old snapshots. It sounds simple, but it's a really effective way to lower storage bills.
Right, so old backups or project files that haven't been touched in years are perfect candidates for moving to lower-cost storage, or maybe even just deletion if they're truly obsolete.
Absolutely. Okay, now let's delve into the various pricing models, because there's definitely more to it than just paying for what you use as you go, isn't there?
Definitely. The on-demand model is probably what most people initially think of. You pay for exactly what you use by the hour or sometimes even the second. It offers maximum flexibility, which is great for short-term or unpredictable workloads. However, it's generally the most expensive option per unit of compute.
That's right. Then you have spot instances. Now, these can offer really significant cost savings. We're talking sometimes up to 90% compared to on-demand prices, but they're for workloads that are fault-tolerant and can handle interruptions.
Ah, the CAC.
Exactly. They're great for things like batch processing, maybe some testing environments, or machine learning training jobs where a temporary loss of compute isn't critical.
Right, because those instances can be terminated by the provider with very little warning, so definitely not suitable for your critical production workloads.
Correct. Next up are savings plans. These provide quite substantial discounts, often up to, say, 72%, but they work by committing to a consistent level of compute usage. It's measured in dollars per hour, usually for a period of 1 or 3 years. A key insight here, something people often miss, is to analyze your baseline compute usage over time. Don't just look at peak demand.
Baseline, okay.
Yeah, savings plans are most effective when you commit to that consistent base level of consumption. You can still handle occasional spikes with on-demand or even spot instances on top. The flexibility of savings plans is a big plus. They apply across different instance types, sizes, operating systems, even regions within the same compute service family. And you also have different payment options, no upfront, partial upfront, or all upfront, with the upfront options usually giving you a slightly higher discount rate.
Okay, savings plans sound like a really good option if you have predictable baseline compute needs but still want some flexibility. How do they compare to reserved instances or IIs?
Right. RISE were one of the earlier discount mechanisms. They also offer savings, again, for committing, but usually to specific instance types in a specific region for 1 or 3 years. Standard RIs give the largest discounts, but they're quite rigid, very little flexibility. Then there are convertible RIs, which offer more flexibility, allowing you to change instance attributes like the family or size, but typically with a slightly lower discount compared to standard RIs. Generally speaking, though, for compute workloads today, savings plans tend to offer you greater flexibility than reserved instances.
So if you have fairly consistent compute needs but think you might need some flexibility down the line, changing instance types or whatever, savings plans are probably the better bet.
In many common scenarios, yes, that's a fair assessment. And one final point on pricing structures: consolidated billing. If your organization runs multiple cloud accounts, linking them under a single management account can actually unlock volume discounts. And it also helps improve the utilization of your committed capacity, like your savings plans and RIs, because they can potentially be shared across all those linked accounts. Ah, so it's like getting a bulk discount on your total cloud consumption across the whole organization.
Precisely. Okay, so we've covered understanding costs and making smart resource choices. What about actively managing the demand for those resources over time?
Right. This is where things can get really efficient, I think, because you don't always need all your resources running at full tilt, 24/7, do you?
Exactly. Dynamic scaling, or auto-scaling, as it's often called, is a really powerful technique. It basically allows you to automatically adjust your compute capacity, scale it up or scale it down in direct response to real-time demand. This ensures you're only paying for the resources you actually need at any given moment, scaling up during peak periods and, crucially, scaling down during lulls.
That sounds like it offers significant potential for savings, particularly for applications with, really fluctuating user traffic patterns.
It absolutely does. And another often underutilized tactic is resource scheduling. Think about your non-production environments, development, testing, staging, etc. They're typically only needed during business hours, right?
Yeah, visually. So you can simply schedule them to automatically shut down during nights and weekends. The cost savings from this kind of straightforward automation can be surprisingly substantial. It's really like turning off the lights in an empty office building after everyone has gone home for the day. Simple, but effective.
That's a very clear analogy. Good point. And maybe we should also briefly touch on data transfer costs,
Yeah,
because moving data around isn't always free.
good point. Yes, moving data between different regions or even different services within the cloud can incur charges. Strategies to minimize these costs often include things like using content delivery networks or CDNs to cache data closer to your users geographically, and also just optimizing your application's data transfer patterns, thinking about how and when data moves.
So strategically locating your data closer to where it's frequently accessed can definitely help reduce those network egress expenses.
Absolutely. And, it's really important to remember that cost optimization isn't a one-time task. It's not a project you finish. It's very much an ongoing process. You need to be regularly reviewing your architecture, looking at your service usage patterns, and keeping an eye on the pricing options available. Cloud providers are constantly introducing new services, new features, some of which can really enhance cost efficiency. So staying informed is crucial.
Yeah, it's a bit like regularly reviewing your personal finances, isn't it? Always looking for opportunities to save or maybe invest more effectively.
Exactly. And lastly, fostering a cost-aware culture within your organization is just vital. This involves making sure that both your finance teams and your technology teams are engaged together in budgeting and forecasting, and ensuring that cost optimization is seen as a shared responsibility across the board.
So essentially, everyone involved needs to be mindful of the cost implications of their cloud-related decisions, not just the finance department.
Precisely. It needs to be part of the engineering mindset, too.
Okay, great stuff. Let's try and bring this deep dive towards a close then. What are the absolute key takeaways for someone aiming to really optimize their cloud expenses?
I'd say the fundamental principles are, first, gain deep visibility into your spending through granular data and effective tagging. You have to know where the money goes. Second, make informed choices about cost-effective resources. That means right-sizing, selecting appropriate instance types and storage tiers, and leveraging the most suitable pricing models like savings plans or spot instances based on your specific workload characteristics. Third, actively manage demand through things like dynamic scaling and resource scheduling. Turn things off when you don't need them. And finally, perhaps most importantly, remember that cost optimization is a continuous journey. It requires regular review and a really cost-conscious mindset across your entire organization.
So it's really a proactive, ongoing strategy. It combines understanding your usage deeply, making smart resource selections based on that understanding, and then continuously looking for ways to improve efficiency over time.
Exactly. And proactive cost management isn't just about saving money, although that's obviously important. It's really about maximizing the value you derive from your cloud investments. It frees up resources budget, people's time, that can then be reinvested in further innovation and business growth.
Some really valuable insights there. Thanks so much for taking this deep dive with us today.
My pleasure. Always good to talk about saving money in the cloud.
This deep dive is sponsored by Stonefly, your trusted solution provider and advisor in enterprise storage, backup, disaster recovery, hyperconverged and VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox cluster, AI servers, SA365, a turnkey security appliance, and public and private cloud. Check out stonefly.com or email your project requirements to sales@stonefly.com.